Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Aaron's Beer Reviews. So, for my beer today, I have a beer from a brewery called Wildflower based in Marrickville. This beer is called Kernel Stone 2020. Now this is a 750ml bottle. The beer is 6.2% alcohol and it was bottled in March of this year 2020. So this beer is what's called a collective only release. I'll get to talk about the collective a little bit later, but for now, how about we try this beer? So I'm getting a very acidic sort of aroma, a little bit of lemon as well, which is very normal for a wildflower style beer. I'll get into that a bit later in the video today. Certainly very fruity. You got that lemon acidity in the back palate, and it balances really nicely with the fruity flavour of the beer and the tartness of the beer. It is slightly tart, and again that is typical of pretty much every wildflower beer. So for a little bit more history on this beer, let's just read the description. Kernel Stone 2020 is a golden barrel matured Australian wild ale re-fermented with plumcots from Yarralea Orchard in Bathurst, New South Wales. Made and released exclusively for the Collective 2020. So, there's a bit more of the description. I will just read it on my phone. Kernel Stone 2020. 2020 sees us revisiting one of our absolute favourite beers from the 2019 Collective, Kernel Stone. Last year, this plumcot re-fermentation took us by surprise each time we tasted it in the months after release. Such subtle flavour, which continually unveiled itself with more time in bottle. I drank all the bottles I had here, so I knew we had to make it again. Kernel Stone 2020 is an Australian wild ale made with plumcots from Yarralea Orchard outside Bathurst, New South Wales. Plumcots are a cross between a plum and an apricot. These were developed in the States, and I believe we call them plumcots, which I know have been used in some beers about the place here and there. 20 was a touch warmer than 19, and the fruit ripened a few weeks earlier than last. We received 60 kilos of the juiciest navel-sized fruit on 23 December and spent the morning of Christmas Eve splitting the fruit, allowing them to get even riper under carbonic conditions until we racked barrel 1810 of 9-month-old gold onto the fruit on 27th December. The beer macerated and re-fermented with the fruit as per our normal process for 10 weeks. A whole month longer than last year, before packaging in early March 2020. When we were tasting this beer before release, we thought the aroma evoked memories of Redskins, Fairy Floss, Red Berry Rosé, Berry Cobbler and oven roasted sugars. The palate was compact, with an upfront skinsy, juicy red wine character. This year's version is certainly showing off the riper fruit than in 19, with a deep, dark palate that maintains a mysterious nuance and subtlety. The label for Kernel Stone is made from a photo I took of a beautiful old sandstone church, Hunter Bailey Memorial, near where I live in Annandale. We named it Kernel Stone because the pips in apricots are called kernels and in plums are called stones. I'm not sure what a plumcot centre would be called, so we split the difference. That description was written by one of the owners of Wildflower, Topher. So I'm definitely getting that berry sort of taste that Topher mentioned in his description. Again, the acidity is just balanced perfectly with the tartness, and it makes for a really easy drinking beer. It's still winter here in Sydney, but a relatively warmer day than usual, and this is going down as a treat. So for a bit of history on Wildflower, they're based in Marrickville in Brompton Street, Marrickville. They weren't the first brewery in Marrickville. For those of you who aren't based in Sydney or don't know, Marrickville is, I guess, the craft beer capital of Sydney. There's more craft breweries there than any other suburb in New South Wales, in fact. Wildflower opened, I believe, around 2017, I think. And what sets Wildflower apart from all the other breweries is the strain of yeast that's used. So, Topher is one of the owners, the other one is Chris. Topher has always been fascinated by wild ales. He spent some time in France and also the United States, where he's from. and he learnt under some amazing brewers in some amazing breweries over there how to brew a perfect wild ale. So what sets Wildflower apart is the fact that the yeast used in Wildflower is a house strain. It's not found in any other beer in the world. Topher experimented with a variety of different yeasts, brewing many different batches of beer and blending different yeasts with each other until he got the perfect house blend of yeast. Topher found yeast on fruit skins, flowers, and anything like that, on bushwalks and places such as his backyard. And he's combined all those over many months of brewing many different types of beers until he found that perfect house strain. So initially when Wildflower began, they brewed two different types of beer, gold and amber. So the gold beer has notes of lemon, lime and stone fruits, whereas the amber beer is more of a has more chocolatey notes while still being tart. So what happens is with all those beers, they're brewed off-site. So Wildflower doesn't technically have a brew house, and they're transported to the Wildflower facility in Marrickville, and they're packaged into a variety of barrels. Now, some barrels took off fantastically, and Topher uses those all the time for his gold and amber beers. Some didn't, unfortunately, and they've become some of the tables and also chairs that are featured in the brewery, which is quite interesting and a great way to recycle barrels that just did not have the style and characteristic that Wildflower required. Like mentioned previously, this is a batch of the gold beer, which has then been re-fermented with plumcots. I never knew a plumcot was a mix of a plum and an apricot, but I can definitely taste both those sort of flavours in this beer. More leaning towards the apricot than the plum, I reckon, but still very
enjoyable.
So this is my first time trying Kernel Stone 2020, but I did also have Kernel Stone 2019. So both those beers were a collective only release, and what the collective is a so basically a beer subscription service that Wildflower run. There's a limited number of people that can join each year, and I've been a founding member. I was member number 46. I remember when the collective was first announced, I was at work and I was tossing up whether I should wait till I got home to purchase the collective membership or if I should just purchase it then and there. Back then I used to drive to and from work, and it used to take me about an hour and 10 minutes to get home every day. So I bit the bullet just before I left work that day and bought a collective membership. I was assigned number 46. At the time there was only 60 spots available. And by the time I got home, the collective was sold out. So I'm forever thankful of that decision I made back in, I think it was late 2017, early 2018, because I've enjoyed so many different beers that Wildflower collective members get to try. Now I've been a fan of Wildflower from the start. When the first batches of Gold and Amber were released to the public, I was straight over there and I bought some. I've tried pretty much every single Wildflower beer that's been released. It's getting a bit hard to try as many now, just because Topher is releasing new beers basically every Wednesday as part of his Wildflower Wednesday initiative. The more I drink this beer, the more the taste does develop as it slowly warms up to room temperature. Initially I was getting a lot of that apricot sort of taste. It's slowly moving over to the plum sort of taste. It's very colourful. It's very similar to what a plum would look like, I guess. I'm really enjoying looking at this colour while I'm drinking it. So the Wildflower Brewery is based in Marrickville at 5 Brompton Street, not too far from where the Factory Theatre is. A couple of breweries very close by, being Source Brewing and also Grifter Brewing. So initially the collective was open to 60 members. Over time that has slightly increased. I believe it's about 140 or 50 so now. Not entirely sure the exact number, but there are a few new releases every year. So around, I think it's October or November every year. Subscribe to Wildflower's newsletter if you're interested, and keep an eye out because Topher or Chris will release details when the next collective membership is open. And if you can, I really suggest grabbing it and going for it. You get about 10 or 11 beers a year, plus a fancy little beer glass. To be honest, I do prefer last year's beer glass, which was more of the goblet flute sort of style beer glass. Unfortunately, I broke it. First beer glass I've ever broken. It had to be a limited edition one, which I cannot get again. I will recommend, if you ever go to Wildflower in Marrickville, there's, like I said, there's other breweries around. There's Source, Grifter, Stockade, Batch, the list goes on and on. There's always new breweries opening around there. So if you are going to go there, it's very easy to get to. For me, all I need to do is just catch one bus to get to Marrickville, thankfully. But for those who might live a bit further out of Sydney or want to come to Sydney one day just to have a look around all the breweries, best thing to do firstly is to get to Central by bus or train. However, from there are a few buses that can go there. I usually catch the 4:30 bus, and that gets me basically near the Factory Theatre, and it's only about a 2 or 3 minute walk up to Brompton Street to find Wildflower. If you're also into coffee, there's some good coffee places around there. Coffee Yakami is one of my go-to places for coffee when I'm ever in Marrickville, as is Roastville Coffee Roasters. So for those of you who have been to Wildflower in the past, please comment below what your favourite beer is. For me, St. Florence has always been one of my favourites. I just love the beer that's re-fermented on grapes, and every year there's always a slight touch to it. So one year, one release was brewed on Sauv Blanc grapes. Another one was, I think, Semillon grapes. But yeah, I think that's about it for today. So if you like this video, please give it a like. If you like the way I present beer reviews, please subscribe. And also remember to click that bell to get notified every time I release a new video. You can also find me on Instagram and Untapped. I'll put it just around here somewhere. But yeah, that's about it for today. So wherever you are, have a great day, a great evening, and cheers.